time goes on and Magic evolves, it feels like the cycles of its complaints always stay the same. Bracket 3 players won't let me play Blood Moon in their pod, but the Infect haters will always juke and jive whenever they see that keyword across from them. Designed around 60 card constructed, it's crazy to see how many complaints Infect gets, with many people talking about wanting it to be 20 poison counters in Commander because it's double the amount of regular life, but I just don't think that's worth it. That's what I wanted to go over in this video. Not only in this Reddit post are we talking about poison and Infect in 2025 and whether or not it's good or bad, I wanted to provide my thoughts on it, go over Fynn the Fangbearer as a basic idea in a deck, and really just hammer home, is Infect actually that good in Commander? If you're still salty about poison in 2025, you're cooked. And honestly, I kind of agree. I don't think there's actually a reason to be this upset about it. I think a lot of times what happens is poison does get answered. I think it does, but it creates this salty situation where someone arbitrarily, as the poison player, as the Infect player, decided to choose someone to be that first target, because it's honestly relatively rare that the Infect player gets to put an Infect counter on everybody and win that way and proliferate themselves out of the game. Like it's like some type of Pauper Poison Storm type of deck. It usually doesn't happen. You're not proliferating your way to some type of glorious mega victory that you then brag about for the rest of your days at the LGS. No, it's usually just one person. You target them down, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh, this is unfair. They go on Reddit and they try and get their Reddit karma just like this. But the story here goes basically this. Today, I played my Fynn the Fangbearer deck in a pot of randos. And all they did the entire game was complain about how broken poison is and how playing it is baby mode. Then proceeded to ask me if all my decks were asshole-ish. And honestly, I have to say this is a skill issue. Somehow my deck is OP, but also supposedly only kills one player before getting hated out. So which is it? Honestly, they're not wrong. This is a completely fair evaluation of it. Is the deck too strong or too weak? Don't start acting like I'm playing on easy mode because you didn't want to block with your SRAM and took the poison. It really doesn't make me hate the EDH player. It really does make me hate the EDH player behavior of just crying and whining when someone plays something you don't like. It's not a broken strategy. We do not need 20 poison counters in Commander. You're just upset because you couldn't figure out how to throw more than one removal spell at me. Sorry, not sorry, get good. Now, okay. I will say, a optimized Fynn the Fangbearer deck can be relatively scary. There's a lot of aspects to Fynn, and what I want to do in this video is go over two things. So firstly, I want to give y'all an introduction, a soft one to Fynn, and then use that to kind of frame the discussion around Infect. Yes, we can talk about, Atraxa Infect, we can talk about just different Infect decks in general, like using green, using combat tricks, using something else. Whatever way you want to work in Infect, I think the general blanket statement can be made. And there are some angry things said by OP here where, they're talking about how opponent didn't block and how they're just whining and then just making generalization about EDH players. And there is truth and falsehood to that. Again, I always talk about how I come from a biased situation of my unique experience in a big city like Toronto, where I come across bigger LGSs and bigger crowds. And also at this point, being a content creator, I feel like generally people are probably better to me, so it's just harder for me to find a net negative experience. I have had these situations and I've navigated them to a certain degree. Sometimes I've just avoided them altogether. I'm not here to fight people, but attitudes can be a big thing because that goes into your evaluation. A lot of times we get criticized as a format for being a battle cruiser type of format where everyone just sits there, builds their giant wall, and just points at each other, right? And that's my understanding of Battle Cruiser Magic. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But everyone just, maybe that's just pillow fort gameplay. But regardless, you just sit there, everyone's got their massive fortress, and you all wait to go off. But it also feels weird that in a format where you sit there and you amass your army, and you don't want to, seem like you're too far ahead so you get targeted down. Instead, in that format where you play a turn 1 card that says Infect, or a turn 1 card with Death Touch, and your commander is Fynn the Fangbearer, it also feels like there's no hiding it. So you are going to be the one getting targeted down. So this person knew that playing Fynn the Fangbearer. So let's just break it down first before we go too far into my opinions around Infect, because that's going to be the second portion of this. So firstly, Fynn the Fangbearer, breaking this down, one of the top played, I believe, on EDH Rec, green commanders out there. Legendary, human warrior. You have Fynn the Fangbearer, green and 1 as a 1/3 with Death Touch. Whenever a creature you control with Death Touch deals combat damage to a player, that player gets 2 poison counters. Now, notably, there's a lot of aspects to this in the sense of it's whenever a creature you control deals Death Touch. So if it deals damage to you somehow, I don't know, if they flip it around, you get the poison counters. That could be a thing. But also, the card's got to have Death Touch. So if there's some way to remove Death Touch, that works. And notably, the power toughness of it doesn't matter. You can attack someone with a 20/20 or a 1/1. As long as the damage is dealt, they get 2, not 1, not 3, 2 poison counters. You got to think about how you play your buffs in this type of deck. Now, the commander is very cheap. It is a deck that relies on the commander, but that doesn't mean you don't have other cards that have Infect in them. So notably, you're going to play some level 1 stuff. So let's go over the game plan here. Fynn wants to play stuff like Concordant Crossroads. You want to get haste, you want to get your creatures out. So some type of evasion, getting in super quick, that makes sense. It's going to be a relatively low to the ground type of deck. It's not going to be big green like many green decks are. You can play cards like Ambush Viper. This is a fun one. It has flash. You can get in at your end step. Cool. You can also play cards like Wasteland Viper. A lot of snakes in this deck. Wasteland is fun because it gives you like a random buff on discard, so it's uncounterable. But remember what I said about you don't want to just buff. This one's kind of fun because you are going to have cards that potentially are just unblockable and don't have Death Touch. Wasteland Viper provides Death Touch while also having Death Touch. So this is just like a good card to have in this deck in general. Next, you're going to have alternate ways to give Infect as well. Triumphs of the Hordes is definitely worth it. Getting over top, giving Trample, giving Infect. A lot of times people build Fynn the Fangbearer with some level of Proliferate, which we're going to get into. So if you're creatures have Infect or they have +1/+1 counters, or they just have something, then getting it bigger is also going to be important. So having those big powers to make sure that trample makes sense, have that Infect is going to be able to get you to get in over top, because at the end of the day, if you get in some amount of damage, you can get your Infect damage, you can get your damage in and then get the Infect. But remember that it doesn't work with it. So Infect is a replacement effect, right? So creatures with Infect deal damage to players in the form of -1/-1 counters and players in the form of poison. So no damage is actually dealt. You can't do some weird scenario where like you hit them with Infect, that's damage, and so you get, no, you can't do any of that. Triumph of the Horde is going to give everything Infect. You don't get super Infect with Fynn, so that's another thing to remember. But Triumph of the Horde is going to be worth it in case you do lose Death Touch, in case you do need to get in over top, because just having Death Touch is not evasive in and of itself, especially when Fynn is out on the battlefield. Next up, you're gonna have other effects like Bow of Nylea, just showcasing that if you have cards that are unblockable, I'm thinking like Toski and stuff that just have like great evasion, great abilities on it. Bow of Nylea is going to be a great way to just give all attacking creatures Death Touch. That way it's just attacking creatures and it's ones that you control, and it has other abilities and stuff that are very, very relevant. And then you can choose to proliferate. Notably, Fynn the Fangbearer only provides 2 Infect per damage dealt by Death Touch creature, and so it's not going to be just like instant wins. You're not going to play it like Legacy or Modern Infect where you buff up a bunch of creatures all at once and swing in and deal like 10 Infect all at once, remembering that again, it's not 20 Infect that a lot of people are requesting in Commander over the years. It is still 10 Infect and 40 life. And so Proliferate is actually really valuable. So something like Canker Bloom is kind of, it's a great creature if you have some level of graveyard recursion, you know, being able to sacrifice a destroy target artifact or enchantment, but also Proliferate is going to be great if you have some type of -1/-1 counter on a creature because they blocked it, proliferating that, and then proliferating +1/+1 counters to just make things bigger. Overall, Proliferate is just going to be a great thing for you to use if you have been able to get Infect onto multiple players at the same time. But one thing I kind of highlighted here that you don't want to do is just play straight buffs. Remember, again, Fynn the Fangbearer doesn't care about how powerful the creature is. As long as it deals damage, that creature provides 2 Infect. And yes, you are going to be playing Glistener Elves. You are going to be playing the Infect stuff, right? You're going to be playing stuff that has Infect, that gives Infect, whatever. But that's not going to be too many of those creatures. You're in just one color. It's not going to be too many of that. Don't just play straight buffs. Play buffs that also provide some type of evasion, some type of protection, something like that. Don't just play Giant Growth in your Fynn the Fangbearer deck. Now, when it comes to how I feel about Infect, because that's just kind of where Fynn lands. Ultimately, Infect, just kind of walking you through it, is not powerful in EDH for a couple of reasons. Firstly, this is a battle cruiser game in a world where you are building up your own boards on average, right? Like if you think about the average bracket 3 game, and I want to use brackets as a good way to frame this. In bracket 4, Infect is probably not going to be that great. You are playing the most powerful cards out there. On average, people that are playing that format are aware of those cards, build around that bracket, are generally aware of being better commander players. Like they are self-aware of their deck building. They are playing more interaction. They know what you're doing. They see Fynn and they know they're going to be targeting you. So with that in mind, those bracket 3 players that maybe are playing a little bit slower, they're building up their engine in that type of game where I mentioned in the beginning, where you are going to be showcasing, first of all, here's my commander. It's Fynn the Fangbearer. And then you play out the turn 1 Death Toucher. Do not act like you are passing that turn without taking some amount of damage and hate. Because even though you have that Death Toucher, again, you play Fynn on 2 because you need the Fynn out for that thing to deal combat, deal Infect damage. You play the Fynn out on 2, they're going to swing it at you. You're going to draw the ire of the whole table because you've shown your hand. You're playing with your whole chest revealed, right? Everything's out there. And they know exactly what you're doing. So now you have 3 separate different turns where people are going to interact. They're going to politic. They're going to draw new cards and new resources and come up with ways to stop you. So not only is it not a problem because it's a weak strategy, which I'm going to get to in a second, but because in a social environment, it's hard for you to get across a game plan that generally has been built in a constructed way with a constructed basis in mind to now deal with multiple people. And that's where the saltiness of a Infect game can happen, where again, you generally have to like target one person and then you kind of just take it from there. Now, Fynn is an interesting one where you can try and Infect out to like multiple people with just like a really like small unblockable thing and then like proliferate them out. So Fynn does have angles like that. But again, it has to have its commander out for something like that. So if it's commander out, counter the commander, save all of your interaction for the commander. And yes, they're gonna have the tribes, the hordes, they're gonna have stuff. But other than that, you're dealing with a bunch of weenies with Death Touch. So again, in the social aspect of things, people are gonna know your game plan. If you play it once, you're not hiding anything, right? So not only are people gonna see that you're dealing Infect damage, you're showcasing your commander as Infect, and then people are gonna be playing around it. If you beat the table once, they know exactly how the deck's gonna work. But that's in a set play group. In a group of randos, you're just going to draw the general ire, because if it is true that if the internet is true, that the average game of Commander with randos in the LGS in the wild have this much salt, you're going to draw the negativity of that whole table towards you. You know what you're doing as a Fynn the Fangbearer player. You're coming on Reddit and you're complaining about how people are complaining about Infect. Why are you playing Fynn the Fangbearer? It's like when I'm playing Mill, I'm not complaining about how other people be complaining about Mill. Yes, sometimes people take it a little too far. You know, the content creators and stuff get a little too salty and stuff. You know, you got to call that out. But when it comes to the average player, you revel in it. You revel in it. I don't know why you're on Reddit complaining about how rando EDH players are complaining. So that comes at it from a social perspective. Now, from a gameplay perspective, you have to remember that at least in the vacuum of Fynn, in the vacuum of mono green, in a controlled environment where you have reactive protection, it's not proactive like force of will or something like that. Your opponent has to target you or has to do something, like you don't have that protection, right? It's a lot harder to protect your stuff in that way. It's a lot harder to get out at the whole table. Yes, you might get rid of one player, generally speaking, with the cards that are available with Infect, with constructed in mind, putting them into a multiplayer 100 card singleton format. If you are playing Fynn the Fangbearer, you are going to generally probably be able to kill one person. But then after that, the other 2 players are going to be like, hold on. We gotta clue into this one. And so as they build up their battle cruiser draw, life gain, creature building engines, you knock out that one person, you're not going to be able to knock out these other people, because Fynn doesn't have that type of text on him. Fynn decks slowly like lose or dies by the commander. There's a lot of commander decks out there that could work without it, but Fynn is a build around commander, especially lacking colors. It's not just going to be able to branch out. It doesn't have the blue, doesn't have the black. You don't have like the great removal package. You don't have the interaction in blue. Like, you just don't have a lot of tools in mono green that are traditionally good in mono green. You do have access to them, but you're not going to play them. Again, you're not playing big green. You're not ramping out. You're not playing big things because Fynn doesn't care about how big that creature is. If it deals damage, it's to infect. It's very slow that way. So Fynn in and of itself is not that great in terms of how it's constructed and how it's built because of the social aspect of Commander. Now, if we extrapolate farther past that into other infect strategies, I mean, look, the Atraxa decks are never going to be built fairly. They're never going to be built fairly. But Infect is at the point in Commander where it's like land destruction. It's like infinite combos. It's like all that type of stuff that people hate. A lot of people are going to have these type of conversations with the bracket system being implemented. A lot more people are getting used to having these type of conversations. And I think this is one of the bigger things that I talk about in all of my Commander videos, where as time goes on, as people have gotten used to the old bracket 10 system, people will get used to the implementation of this bracket system as we have more announcements, unbans, bans, whatever. A lot more people will clue into it. They'll be like, oh, unban, ban, whatever. And like, oh, what's this, a bracket system? And they'll slowly start to adopt. The word will spread, the casuals will get it. And this will introduce more conversations about like, oh, I got some bracket 3 decks here. What does bracket 3 mean? It kind of shortcuts this type of conversation that you have with people. It means that you have late game 2-card combos. You don't have any mass land destruction. Like, it kind of eases in that kind of conversation. And this is how we get people talking around Infect, how to work around it at the moment in the table, as well as having those type of politicking discussions. That is one of the things I love to do in my Commander games. And as I'm working on the 4 Emperors format in the One Piece TCG, I always like to promote discussion and open conversation with people just so they get used to it. What are the type of conversations you can have? People just need an example of this. A lot of times people aren't used to this in their vocation, in their games, in their life in general. So giving people that instance of saying, hey, they're playing Fynn. Do you have something like this? I have something like this. Maybe we can work together, get around their interactions, blah, blah, blah. And so these are the type of conversations you can have and give examples to people of what are the type of deals that can be made in that sense. And then you could tell that person, hey, I would rather you do that on your turn so that you're tapped out, and then I will do my part on my turn. But that way you're not doing stuff on my turn. I want you to like do this or whatever. And so you start having these conversations just to deal with the Fynn the Fangbearer player. On average, you're becoming a better Commander player. So in general, I feel like the Infect strategy overall is being tackled by the increased conversation and the implementation of the bracket system, making it align with mass land destruction and other, feel bads of the format. The social aspect of Commander is already holding it down in your lack of ability to take down the whole table all at once. And then also you have the fact that literally Fynn itself is just so kind of mono, right? Like you know what you're getting out of Fynn. It's very specific way it's built. It's really reliant on its commander. Just hold up your interaction, and I feel like you'll do just fine. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Is it time to bring back the hate on Infect? Or should we be going to 20 poison counters? I want to hear it all down below. And you know what? Maybe as a bonus, let me know your most saltiest Infect story or your best non-saltiest Infect story in the comment section down below.